spend my life with you.
You do?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I swear I'm doing my best. It just takes me longer.
I love you.
I'm hungry.
Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles. I am delighted to be joined with the director and the producer of Abby and Emily Go to Palm Springs. So happy that we can virtually still do this together. Congratulations on your film. I love it so much. Got so many questions. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis of your film.
Well, the short of it is it's two women who go on their first vacations together and try not to kill each other. But the long, complicated version is, it's really about love and communication and relationships and how difficult and mind-blowingly frustrating communication can be even with someone who you really love and care about. So.
Well, you can learn a lot from your partner, obviously, when you are going on that first vacation together. I had some reminiscent moments myself watching it. But, it's such a lovely story about love and two people experiencing, each other and those kind of awkward things that you have when you're first in a kind of relationship together. I'm just curious, and feel free to answer as you will, but where did the inspiration come for you in creating this story?
Well, I will be honest, it did come from my personal relationship. That's really it. I had an argument with this woman I was dating, and I originally wrote out this argument verbatim in one of my journals about 6 months before I started writing the script, because I just was so blown away by how, to me, ridiculous it was. And so I just wrote it verbatim just to have a record of it. And then, about 6 months later, I was thinking I should just turn this into a simple little short. And of course, the short turned out to be a lot more complicated, and it grew, and, it had other layers and elements, but that was the original starting point for it, was this argument that I had in a car with someone I was dating.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. And in all honesty, don't worry, you're not alone, Ham. We've all been there, it's all good. But it was brilliant, and it was so real and articulate. And I think everyone can kind of relate to that experience in different ways. You obviously partnered with the Dream Team. Obviously, Nancy's here, who obviously joined the project. Nancy, lovely to have you here.
So good to be here.
How did you come about being part of the project?
Helen and I were participating in a Women in Film Los Angeles program together. So we were meeting, and she, I think, put out an announcement or something, or just was telling the team, I'm making a short and I'm looking for producers. And her and I met up one day for coffee, and it felt like meeting a sister. She was just great. We completely connected, and she told me the idea for the short. And one, just Helen's work as a photographer, I was so drawn to how she captures women. I think she does it in a really beautiful, raw, honest way. And then watching her other shorts were just so beautiful. And again, open, honest, and just felt really fresh and sort of like punk rock. And so when she was telling me about this film about communication, and I'm in a relationship as well, and I just absolutely related to, the dilemma of communication and the imperfectness of relationships. So.
I mean, it's always a delight to see, an LGBTQ plus film of just kind of there's no emphasis there on the fact that these people are queer, but it's I appreciate when it's just about love and the fact that everyone goes through these situations, no matter what you are or who you are, and I love that you just had that. It's just the kind of main part of the story. I want to add to that also, and maybe you got some reflection upon that part of it. But I love your cast. I thought they played so well off each other. They really gave everything, and it really felt almost too real. It was like almost, is this a documentary? This is almost too real. But how was that process for you in bringing your cast together?
Well, I was really specific. I knew exactly who I wanted in the cast for the two leads. The two supporting roles, we were just really super lucky. But with Vico, I had seen Vico in, Stars' show Vida for all 3 seasons. And I loved that show. And I'd seen her in a couple of other things. And so I loved her. And it was really important for me to have the role of Emily played by someone from the LGBTQ community. I wasn't so much concerned with the Abby role because, it just felt more fluid to me. And it was, I wanted her to be femme, so that was okay. But it was really important to me to have that masculine presenting, butch presenting, because there isn't a lot of that on screen. And, but the cast, we had 2 amazing casting directors, and they were just really great at hearing exactly what I wanted. And I was really specific. So Jesse came to us through the casting directors, and Vico, she was on my list of actors that I wanted to work with. Jesselyn, I'd been watching Working Moms for a couple of seasons, and so I loved her. And when the casting directors presented her to me for this really tiny role, I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, I didn't even have to think twice. And I didn't read with any of the actors. I just went by instinct. And I've kind of always done casting like that with other things, because I watched their work. I knew who they were. It's either going to work or it's not. And I tend to work from my gut. Bob Clendenin, who, is just this comic legend, he came to us through our costume designer. It's a really funny serendipitous story. So I was having coffee with the costume designer, talking about the script, talking about the costumes. And Julie says to me, well, I had this idea, and if you hate it, it's no big deal. And, Bob, who used to be on Scrubs and Cougar Town. And I was like, hell yeah, I know Bob. He literally could blink an eye and make me laugh, So she was like, I think he'd be great for the bartender. And again, I was like, wow, it's such a tiny role. If he's in, just offer it to him. We'll take it. We will be thrilled and honored. And so that's how that happened. But with Vico and Jesse, I met with both of them. I had lunch with them after we cast them. And I just made it really clear to them that I wanted them to meet without me, almost like a first date. And I wanted them to kind of develop this organic sense of a relationship without me intruding into it. And so I kind of went with that when we were on set as well. I didn't call cut a lot. I let them play out the scenes. Some of the lines got changed. I told them from the beginning, if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. I love mistakes. Sometimes they're the most beautiful things, which is a metaphor for the relationship as well, but go with it. I rarely called cut. And I just let them kind of do their thing and fall into it organically. So it almost became like a new relationship, with the awkwardness and some of the intimacy. So that's, they did an incredible job. Like they really, and they went with it too. They had lunch, they talked on the phone, they would text me periodically to ask questions, and I would just answer them separately. But they really got a chance to get to know each other away from me, which was really important. So
Helen, you're a dream to work with. You're an actor's dream. You let people play. You don't call cut. And I totally agree with you. Some of the best moments are when you just leave the camera rolling, and that's amazing. And what a gift to have, where you can, you know when you know that you've got it, and you rely on instinct. I think that's incredible. Not everyone has that. So kudos to you. I think everybody wants to be on your set, Helen, because obviously just. It's such a wonderful thing when you just let things play out the way that they do. So well done. And they did a fantastic job, as you know, and how wonderful it is to get such a talented cast from all these different shows that you've enjoyed and experienced. And, even as I said, a bartender, tiny role, but what a role. unforgettable appearance, you know, so that's what happens when you've got great talent. Nancy, for you as a producer, like what was kind of some of the bigger challenges that you faced? Like it's, you know, you had a lot going on. I was worried, what was that Palm Springs heat like what's going on? Tell us a little about that.
Well, you know, as it is with, you know, low budget filmmaking, there's always a lot of just challenges around that. You know, I mean, we were shooting in a hotel, the Sparrows Lodge in Palm Springs, which they so generously gave to us to shoot there, but it was an active hotel, like people were walking around. It was, you know, there's always that sort of feeling of like anxiety when you're shooting in a real space. It gives the film a lot of energy, but just from like a producing angle, there's a lot of different elements to control. And so I'd say that was the biggest challenge. It honestly was it was a really smooth shoot. And like Helen said, the actors came completely prepared and each perform. I mean, and Helen too, like knew exactly what she wanted and like, but is also willing to totally roll with the elements and any of the challenges. So she really is such a dream director to work with, because when she got it, she knew and was like, okay, let's move on. And just was scrappy and fun to work with. So there weren't too many huge challenges. It just same normal like budget and shooting in live locations, I'd say was the biggest challenge.
What I mean, again, when you're taking something that's obviously, you know, it's obviously something that we've experienced, but it's kind of a universal kind of experience for many people. I think this may have also been therapy that you provided for us all, really, or just reflection of what we've all kind of experienced. But what did you both kind of like want your audience to take from this film, and maybe what's some of the reaction been on your festival run thus far as well?
Well, Nancy, do you want to take this one first?
Sure, yeah, you should round it out with something really brilliant. You know, what I hope that people take is just a celebration of intimacy. You know, so much right now, I think the world, I think we're all sort of collectively like awakening a lot of like love in our hearts and a lot of intimacy. And I think just this film is part of that movement. It's just part of embracing people and differences and embracing them like they're our own and ourselves. And I loved your point that it is a film, an LGBTQ film, but that's not the point, and that's part of what drew me to it. And I do hope that it just awakens curiosity about others and yeah, intimacy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Nancy says. Nancy always has a really beautiful, articulate, gentle way of saying things. I love it. But I agree, you know, what you said earlier about, yes, this is an LGBTQ film, but really the whole point of it was this is a film about two people that are struggling to communicate and struggling to make their relationship work. And it's just so hard, no matter how old you get. And I think that's what I love when people, like your reaction actually was so fantastic when you said, oh, me and my boyfriend and my partner watched this and, you know, we related to it and reminded me of our first vacation. That is the dream reaction, you know, because a lot of people that have watched it have come back to me and said, oh my God, it was so painful, but it was so, we laughed, we cried, like it's not easy to watch because sometimes it makes your skin crawl to see that tension and that kind of fighting. But it's also kind of validating to know that you're not the only one that goes through this, because you kind of feel crazy when you're going through it. You know, when you're in the middle of fighting with your partner like this about stupid shit and about stuff that you know in your gut is just ridiculous, you feel kind of nuts. And so what means the most to me is when people come up to me and say, man, I totally related to that. Like, you just feel less alone. And that's a really powerful thing, to feel less alone in relationships and, you know, so yeah.
You feel like you're going to stay in it forever, you know, and when you look back on an argument, you're like, oh goodness, what are we arguing about? And I love that, you know, we can all think that and think, goodness me, what were we arguing about? But at the time we're upset and we're emotional and we have feelings, and, you know, and I think it's good to sort of hopefully work through those feelings or decide that's not the right person for you. All those things are, you know, are valid and important. It's all about human connection, isn't it? And I think that was so wonderfully displayed in your film. And I just love that the way that you kind of made us feel like it was so kind of intimate experience to experience this, which I think is why it kind of felt so painful because, you know, we were right there. We were like the little bird in the corner, you know. It was just brilliant like that. Kind of like looking back on this project for both of you, kind of what have you learned from this project in particular? Is there anything you kind of like learned from this particular project?
Oh boy. I mean, there were some learning curves for me. I think because I was wearing so many hats, you know, I wrote it, I was directing it, I was producing it as well. You know, it's really hard to manage a team sometimes. You know, you learn through your mistakes. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think, you know, I learned a few new things that I was like, okay, I should do that different. I should do that different. I mean, every project is different. So honestly, I also learned how to sync up footage, which I've already forgotten, but I edited the film as well. So, which by the way, back to your previous point, there were parts that I couldn't even watch myself for the first few weeks because it was so triggering and so painful. And there were certain parts where I would literally start crying during the edit. It was nuts, like just this visceral reaction, you know, to the therapy of, because that's what it was. I think you said that earlier, that making a film like this, there's a therapeutic element to it. And I think a lot of us as artists, as creatives, whether you're an actor, a producer, a writer, a filmmaker, whatever your role is as a creative, we use our creativity to heal some of our trauma, to heal some of our wounds. And it's a really powerful tool. And so, and this film was definitely a part of that. And every film I've ever made is somehow dealing with a question that I have for myself and for someone around me. And it's a way of trying to answer that question emotionally. So it becomes very, very emotional to watch it. So I think only recently have I started watching it and not cried at all. Like, you know, it's like, it's very healing. So yeah, I learned some things about my.
Well done for getting to that point of not crying, because I know that's a lot of it's a lot of work you put in there, and it is emotional and triggering. So well done for that. For you, Nancy, from your perspective, what have you kind of taken from this film?
I think the thing that I am reminded of with each film, but this film in particular in a very special way, was just the importance of showing up as yourself. And showing up imperfectly is great as long as you show up. And yeah, I mean, I think just with the overall message of the film, of that intimacy and that connection, I think, you know, this was such a female heavy set. Like there were a lot of like women on set, and so it was just a really wonderful experience to be among people who also were showing up as their full selves imperfectly, and we all together with communication and connection and just this shared commitment willed this thing forward. And yeah, I just think with every piece of work that you make, show up.
That's sound filmmaking advice as well. Absolutely. Totally agree. Just to finalize on this, what is next for you both, together or individually?
Nancy, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I'll go first. I have a couple films. I started a new company with my fiance, Nick Frangioni. We're making our 2 films as a company, and I'm also working on a TV show. So we have lots coming up. We're really excited.
You should tell them about the cam thing. Are you allowed to talk about it or no?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, we got one of the films called Feral with a director who's also part of our company, Nahar Kanegi. It got accepted into Breaking Through the Lens, which is a program at the Cannes market, and now this year the Toronto International Filmmaking Market. And so we are going to be like pitching the film in both markets. And yeah, it's just a really exciting sort of acknowledgement of the project.
Well done, Nancy. That's amazing. Already,
Thank you.
that's fantastic. Wishing you best with that. That's fantastic. And for you.
So I'm really excited. I have a new feature that we just started production on. We're starting to funds is in Joplin senior year of high school. So I'm really excited about it. I've got 2 producers attached. I'm just still working on Nancy because I want her to do it too, but I know she's super busy. So
We'll find a way to work
done with
together again.
We're not done with that conversation, Nancy. But right now we've got Orion Williams attached as an EP, and he, I don't know if you guys are familiar, he did Control, he produced Control, England Is Mine. He just had a new project about Jeff Buckley announced, and a Sissy Spacek film that was just announced. And then another one of our producers who and they're both incredible, Sean O'Banion, he's done some really awesome films. So yeah, and we are raising funds right now actively. It's a $3 to $5 million budget, and the script is finished. I'm really happy with it. I'm so excited about it. I have a very strong idea of the cast, of course. So we want to shoot it next year in 2022 and have it at Sundance in January of 2023 in time for Janice's 80th birthday.
I love your timeline. Like, I love it. I love your instincts. I love your timeline. This is brilliant, and that's so fantastic. And we'll put out to the universe. Anyone watching this, it's got a blank check for this movies,
Yes.
TV shows for both of these wonderful filmmakers. Then let's just add that to the spectrum as well. Well, listen, you both did such a wonderful job. What a dream team. It's such a pleasure to have you part of the New Filmmakers LA family. We're so excited to have your film part of our film festival. And thanks so much for sharing your insight and your expertise with this film. Thank you both very, very, very much.
Thank you so much. Seriously. Thank you. Thank everyone on the team.
Yeah.
And next time, Helen, we're going to go into this interview on that background that you've got, because I'm saying, like, everything's better with a cocktail, so thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.